November 11th is the day set aside to honor all of those men and women who have served or are serving in the armed forces. Today's Motivational Monday will take a closer look at a few veterans from our community.
Why did you choose to enlist?
So I wouldn't get drafted. I chose to enlist in the Navy so I wouldn't get drafted into the Army.
Why did you choose the Navy specifically?
Oh, a lot of reasons. I like boats and I like things like that. Just no real reason.
How long were you in the Navy?
2 years.
What was your favorite duty?
Morning watch,
Why?
so I could see the sun come up. Because when you sleep below decks, you don't get to see the sun much.
What was your job to do?
A gunner's mate on a 5-inch gun.
What is that?
What is a 5-inch gun?
No, a gunner's mate.
A gunner's mate, you run the gun, you shoot it.
Would you recommend enlisting into the Navy?
Sure. If you don't mind being away from home a lot.
Why did you not re-enlist, or why did you retire?
I didn't retire and I didn't re-enlist because I got a discharge because the government was running short of money and asked if anybody would like to go home, and I said sure.
Yeah, thank you.
So they gave me a discharge.
Hi, I'm Kate here with Mr. Hadley, and I'm going to interview him about his experience in the Air Force. So, Mr. Hadley, what branch did you serve in?
The Air Force National Guard.
When did you enlist?
I enlisted in September of 1999.
Why did you choose to serve?
I always wanted to be in the military, and then also I joined for the college benefits.
How long have you served?
I've served over 19 years.
Why did you choose the Air Force?
Well, my stepdad was in the Air Force on the same base, and it was just familiar, and I thought that it would be a really neat experience.
What job did you perform in the Air Force?
I performed several jobs in the Air Force. I started out as a cook, and then I moved into training, and shortly after that I moved into fitness. I was the unit fitness program manager, and after that I became the dining facility manager. Currently I got moved back into fitness, so I'm going to finish out my career in fitness.
What was the hardest part about being in the Air Force?
Gosh, the hardest part I think is being away from family. When you are gone, knowing that family back home has to pick up all the slack, and it's just really hard.
What was the biggest takeaway from your time in the Air Force?
There are several. I would say being a part of something bigger than me, how the work becomes fun. But I think the biggest takeaway that I'll take from the Air Force is going to be how much I got back from the Air Force in comparison to what I gave to the Air Force.
What will you always remember about your time in the Air Force?
I'll always remember the trips that we did, the relationships that I built. Some of my best friends are because of the Air Force.
What advice would you have to someone who is considering joining the Air Force?
Do it. Absolutely do it. You will not regret it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
How's it going? I'm here with Tim Christ. So, what branch did you serve in?
I served in the United States Marine Corps.
Alright. Why did you choose to serve?
When I was in high school and middle school, I kind of always thought I was going to go that route. I had a lot of uncles and a grandfather that served in various branches, and my parents were kind of against it at the time. They wanted me to go like the college route. I would have been like a first-generation college student in my family, so that was kind of a big deal. And so they kind of persuaded me to go to college, and after I graduated, I worked in IT for a few years, and I still kind of felt like kind kind of felt the calling a little bit still, and I was getting kind of, at the time there was like age restrictions, so I was getting to that point where I wasn't going to be able to serve anymore, and I didn't want to, you know, get like 40 or 50 years old and you know, live with regret that I didn't do it. So
Yeah.
I decided to enlist. I was 26 when I enlisted.
And how long did you serve for?
I did one contract at 4 years, so 2011 to 2015 I served.
And what made you choose the Marines?
I don't really know. I had a couple uncles that served in the Marines, and when I was like looking at what I could do in the Marines, I kind of took like a different approach to it. I looked at like what jobs were available, and I knew I wanted to work in the intelligence field, and so I started looking at like what the Marines could offer in that, and then I guess I didn't really know the whole culture behind the Marines when I decided to choose that branch, but I'm definitely glad I did.
Yeah. So what job did you end up doing most of the time while in the Marines?
So my job code in the Marines was 2621, and that's signals intelligence and electronic warfare. And that's broken down into like in the analyst side and the operator side, and I was an analyst for the majority of the time. So as a signals intelligence analyst, you look at electronic communication signals. So that could be like cell phone, it could be wireless or wired, so like cell phone, email, text message, VoIP, satellite calls, anything like that, and you analyze that information. You develop targets of interest. We had a target deck with people that were involved in like facilitating lethal aid or direct action against coalition forces, things like that. And then after a while, after monitoring targets for a while, we would eventually add them to an actionable list that would drive combat operations from ground commanders in theater.
Okay. What was the hardest part about being in the Marines?
That's a good question. I was married when I enlisted, and I was separated from my family for over half my enlistment, whether it be deployment, training, school, field ops, anything like that. So over 2 years of that time in the Marines was spent away from my family, and that was probably definitely the hardest part.
Okay. What was the biggest takeaway from your time in Marines? I guess I didn't really understand like the whole culture of Marines, like when I decided to join. Maybe I should have been more informed when I chose my branch, but I definitely walked away with a greater appreciation for everything that goes on in the Marines, the culture around it. I developed a greater sense of patriotism and what it means to sacrifice. Yeah, okay. What will you always remember about your time in the Marines?
Probably the friends I made. I had a close group of guys that we'd always have over for holidays and stuff. We'd hang out, go to movies, things like that. I'm still in touch with them, and I got out in 2015, and you know, we still talk. I still talk to them, like I see them every day. So definitely the people that I remember the most.
All right. And final question, what advice would you have to someone who's considering joining the Marines?
I think my advice for anyone who's considering to serve, no matter what the branch, would be to find a job before you look for a branch to serve in. So find something you really want to do. I knew going in I wanted to be an intelligence analyst, so when I went to my recruiter, I said, hey, this is the job that I want, you know, let me know when it's available. A lot of people go to a recruiter and they get, you know, the recruiters have quotas and things like that, so they just get stuck with whatever job the recruiter has at the time or whatever. But I would say definitely pick a job that you want to do, whether you want to be a mechanic or you want to be an infantryman or you want to be a pilot or whatever it is, and go to your recruiter and say, this is what I want to do, you know, what do I have to do to do that job.
All right, well, thank you for coming out here and doing this. See you around.